Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to give you a quick heads up. The audio quality on this one isn't quite up to the standards you've come to expect from here on Fathernetics. That said, I knew I had to share it with you anyways because the conversation is too powerful to keep to myself. This episode features an incredible guest and highlights an amazing organization doing important, thriving work within the LGBTQ community. The stories being told here, their mission, and their impact deserves to be heard. It deserves to be supported and recognized, not just by us, but by the larger Fathernetics family. So with that in mind, let's get into it.
I saw your advertisement, if you will, for the spring break thing. It's something I didn't know about, so I'm glad you guys are doing marketing for it. What is that all about?
So, for years we've been this virtual only community, which is great, but at the end of the day, you just can't compare an IRL connection with a virtual one. And people have been asking us, like, do an event, do something. And then I met this travel agent. She had worked with other groups, and we talked about doing a spring break vacation. So we came up with doing a spring break vacation. And this past year was our fourth one. And the first 3 years, once we went to Disney, another time we went to this all-inclusive place, a Nickelodeon resort, and then we went to Mexico. And those were pretty basically all expensive options. And we heard from people like, we want to be able to go too. And I'm like, that's totally fair. So we decided to go with a cruise, because what the cruise does is I'm not going to say it's not expensive, but at least there are lots of different right? You can have an inside cabin with no window, and that'll be a lot less expensive than an outside cabin or a suite with a window and a deck. So it affords, I think, more opportunities for more people to come, which is why I really like the concept of a cruise. And it's just been an amazing thing to see year after year. We've grown, right? The first year there were 6 of us, 6 families. This year we already are. For next year, this year we had 21 families. For next year, we already have 25 families, and we have 3 lesbian families. So I'm excited that we've opened it up, because it's no longer just gays with kids. It's also GWK Academy, and we support family building for everyone. So we want the families to join us on vacation to to fit the whole LGBTQ plus community. And it's just been amazing. The relationships made, like, this is so there are 4 families that have gone all 5 years, that are going next year already too. And then a bunch of families that have gone 3 or 4 years, several gone 2. And then, we'll have some new families as well. But what we're doing, first of all, what's amazing to see is how many guys get together throughout the year, like outside of our vacation.
Because they've made that connection. Is that what you're saying?
Made that connection. Most of us don't live in real gay areas, right? With a lot of gay friends. I live in the suburbs. We know a lesbian family and another gay family, but we don't really see them at all. While virtually I'm talking to gays all the time, it's just not the same thing. So, like, I'm psyched. We've made relationships with people. We're going to a holiday party in December, these guys who happen to live 45 minutes away from us, and there are 3 other dads coming up, one from Palm Springs, one from Florida. It's just awesome. It's just awesome to be able to be with other gay dads, especially, who just get everything about your life. And so it's wonderful. And it's really, really grown. And it's become an important part of my life, let alone the others as well who participate.
Welcome to Fathernetics, Fatherhood Unfiltered. I'm Jamil. Welcome to the podcast.
You can never find somebody do it like me. I'ma turn it all the way up, cause it kamikaze. Go ahead and try, baby, you are gonna see.
So let me tell you why this piqued my interest. Much along the lines of what you were saying, the community that we're all trying to get into some of us really without knowing that we need it, is such a far reaching thing, right? So I say this all the time on my podcast. Here we have friends that are gay parents and have kids, but they're on the other side of town, right? And then that's the only we may meet with them like once every 5 weeks sometimes because it's not a chore, but it is a to do. They have younger ones, so getting them in the car 45 minutes and it's a whole thing. I have a 12-year-old, so it's easier for me to like pack him up and jet over there. So oftentimes that's the case. But to have 3 or 4 families in close proximity in the same city that are all kind of on the same journey, obviously at different times in the developmental life cycle of a kid, of a family as an adult, would be amazing. And I think that's part of what I would love this podcast to grow into. Obviously, as a podcast, it can't do that, but there's several different tentacles, much like you and your organization have done, that can develop out of this to pull together a community of folks. But in the short term, we can share these stories and make people understand that you're not alone. You know, this journey that you're on is kind of unique to the LGBTQ couple, whether you're lesbian or gay or whatnot. It is unique. It's been done for years, right? Surrogacy, adoption, it's been done for years, but not with an LGBTQ slant, which is why these stories are so amazing. So Brian, give me 30 seconds elevator pitch of who you are as an intro, because you're doing some amazing stuff. Your organization is doing some amazing stuff. I mean, there's a lot about you that we could cover in probably 5 days, but we'll try to condense that into an hour.
Just one more thing about the vacation that I really love.
Yeah.
This year we have right now 5 or 6 single dads coming, which I think is just awesome.
Oh, look at that.
And,
I mean, I wouldn't have thought about that. Why is that strange?
I know. I know. It's crazy, right? And then it's a real diverse group as well. Like we have last year, there were a whole bunch of guys who were Spanish speaking. There were several people from, Black Americans there. It was just awesome. Like I've never been around such a great diverse group of people. So that was wonderful. And we have lots of kids. Your 12-year-olds, that's like the sweet spot of, we have a bunch of kids that age coming.
Well, I mean, it resonated with me, so I'm like looking into it, and it's Royal Caribbean, I believe, which is something that we prefer, and it's out of Florida, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, I'll add the details.
First night we have I know the guy who owns the marketing budget for the Miami Visitors and Conventions Bureau, and so he's going to host us for a welcome dinner party the first night in Miami.
Okay.
So
we've got a lot going on,
which is fun. And then we go to the cruise. But anyhow, so enough of that. We'd love to have you join us, is my point. So yeah, Brian, my husband and I have been together for a very, very long time. We have 3 children through adoption and surrogacy. We found out about Levi when he was 3 days old. We brought him home from the hospital 2 days later. Levi has twin sisters, Ella and Sadie, through surrogacy. I like to share that I'm the biological parent of the girls, and the only reason I share that is because I'm also HIV positive, and I have been since before I met my husband, and we just celebrate our 32nd anniversary. And so in case anyone's listening who's also HIV positive, I want to make sure they understand that is not going to prevent them from being able to become a dad, whether it's through adoption or surrogacy. And when we were going through our journeys, both adoption and surrogacy, there were very few resources available, even fewer for those people like me with living with HIV. And I can remember, I don't think my husband and I felt confident about a single decision we were making along the journey. And so I remember after we became dads thinking, I should share our story. But it turns out Ella and Sadie are only 17 months younger than Levi. So we basically had 3 kids under the age of 2. And so it was a crazy household for a few years. And it wasn't until they were all out of diapers and eating solid foods and Levi was doing some kind of daycare thing that I thought, oh, you know what, now I should share my story. And by that point, I also wanted to connect with other dads because, wherever we went, we had people stopping us, asking us about our story. And at first it was cute, but after a while, honestly, it got to be a bit much. Like, we couldn't leave the house. Look, we had 3 kids under the age of 2, plus we had a Chihuahua, and our son Levi is black, and so like we didn't look like all the other families, and so
So it felt like a
constantly,
novelty, would you say?
yes,
It was just a magnet for, because I don't know that people walk around going, "Hey, tell me your family story," unless something looks unusual. And it's nice to be curious, but sometimes I guess you can tell me if this is right or wrong. It seems intrusive, right?
well, we actually created a video. One of the first things we did with Gays with Kids was create a video. So check it out. It's on YouTube. It's called Things People Ask Gay Dads. Recognize some of the actors in it. And it was, what we did is I actually surveyed people and said, here are some of the experiences we get. I'd like to hear from you guys. And so every sort of scene in that video is something that really happened to us, but was also common amongst other gay dads. It's just people, I found, like, the questions, the things they would ask us, you would never think to ask a straight person, or certainly
Yeah.
a straight person who created a family the old-fashioned way. Like, how much did your family cost? Adoption's great, but it's not the same as you feel for your kids who are biological. Like, all kinds of stupid, really stupid, ignorant things. And again, at first it was okay, but after a while we got sick of it. So I just wanted to connect with other gay dads. And so I was surprised to see that there was nothing at all out there, really. There was at the time, a burgeoning Dad 2.0 community, which was really about dads who were changing. They weren't acting like their dads. They were getting more involved in their kids' lives, but it was almost all straight guys. So we launched Gays with Kids, and my mission was to help guys become dads, and then once they do, navigate the gay and gay fatherhood. And we went about doing that by sharing. And I'm sorry, I'm going past the 2-minute mark, but we went about
No,
doing.
this is fine. This whole
Okay.
hour is really about you and gays with kids, because I'm really interested in the thread that you're weaving here, because much like myself and my husband, when we started our journey, we didn't find much by way of resources either.
Okay.
Um, so that was a struggle for us. So I think the more that we put information out there, the next couple that says I want to have kids, when they go in and type something into Google, they'll have at least 5 things pop up, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Instead of nothing. So that's progress.
And that's great. And then well, let me continue, and I'll get back to that because that's an important point. So we decided. So we were telling stories. Most of the stories were anecdotally from the viewpoint of the dads, rather. So what does that mean? Meet Brian and Ferd. They've been together since June of 1993. At the time, Brian was living with HIV, and the guys were attending funerals every week. Like, they went to some 25 to 30 funerals of guys mostly in their 20s and 30s. And so no one was thinking about parenthood. We weren't even planning for a future. And then, the so-called AIDS cocktail came out. And while some of Brian's friends continued to pass on, he did not. And eventually, Ferd realized that for Brian to be really happy in the future, he was going to need to be a parent, and Ferd wanted to be a parent alongside him. So they became dads, and today they have 3 kids through adoption and surrogacy, and can't believe it. Stories that make like your heart go like this. But what I realized after a while is nothing you could take to the bank. So we inspired people, and then they'd be like, okay, so how do I do that? And that realization became the launch of what is now called GWK Academy. And first we built it just for gay men, because we were part of Gays with Kids after all. And we focused on, the surrogacy and IVF journey, or adoption/foster adopt. And then a couple of things happened. Number one, I saw the political climate changing last year in a way that did not make me happy. And then number two, I turned a very, very big number this year, a birthday that, quite frankly, I never thought I would come close to living to see. And so between that, I started looking at legacy and realized a couple of things, that within the alphabet soup that is the LGBTQ plus community, there are a bunch of other letters besides gay, besides G, I should say. And it turned out they didn't have anything as doing what we were trying to do for gay men. There is no national organization supporting family building for all paths, etc. So we decided to expand that. We took Gays GWK Academy, we spun it out from Gays with Kids, turned it into a nonprofit, and decide to expand our focus to serve the entire LGBTQ plus community. And so now we're building out content for biological family building for women and all people with uteruses, and then we're doing trans fertility pathways. We've expanded our adoption content. And then once this is all done, quite frankly, since I got into this, I've learned about the foster industry at foster care. I've learned about the kids in the foster care program and what happens to the older kids, especially the LGBTQ plus kids, the non-binary kids of color, and my heart started to break. And so I'm hoping that we can have a little bit of an impact of actually, at the end of the day, when my legacy is not only to support anyone with their path to parenthood, but also to help know that I've helped make a difference moving kids out of the system and into loving LGBTQ homes. And the way I do that, quite frankly, is when you go to gwkacademy.org, you'll see there's biological family building, adoption. And then soon we're going to just have foster. So foster care system, just if I can get on my high horse for a sec, my soapbox, is meant for reunification. So if you're working with the right foster care agency, they'll explain to you, or most, I should say that, most foster care agencies work with kids of all ages, and their priority are the kids who need a place to stay today. There are some agencies, there's a wonderful agency in New York called You Gotta Believe that focus only on older kids, and these kids have already been freed up for adoption. So the idea is someone goes into the foster care system, hopefully they'll be reunified with some ideally with their birth family member, whether it's parents, grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles. Sometimes if you go, you go way back, they're not available, maybe there's a coach or a teacher in the kid's life. Mm-hmm. But it turns out 25% of the kids in the system are never reunified with any birth family member. And those are the kids that are known as being freed for adoption. And so some people, you can get You Gotta Believe only works with the older kids who've already been freed for adoption. Those kids are harder to place typically because people want, babies.
They want babies, yeah.
And so it's difficult, but these kids, what I like to say is that not one of them, I don't care how old they are or where they live, not one of them is in the foster care system because they did something wrong. They're all there because their families couldn't take care of them for whatever reason. And so it's not like anyone deserves to be in the foster care system, and all these kids deserve a fighting chance. And we just know that kids who age out of the system don't do, if they've never been matched with a family, it's dismal. The outlook for their lives is just dismal. So it's really important.
So this fostering piece that you're now getting into, I think it's a natural progression. My kid comes out of the foster care system, so I'm intimately familiar with it, not the bureaucracy of it, but I'm very aware of the number of kids in foster care. And I've said this over the years, just in passing to everybody that I talk to. The ability to adopt in this country needs to be easier. It needs to be a little bit more accessible, because when I went through the process, I think it was out of 10 agencies, maybe one was very welcoming of an LGBTQ family style for adoption. There was a lot of dog whistling happening with the other agencies, right? We are a traditional Christian organization or something, all of that says, no, thank you. We're looking for a mom and dad setup, or we're looking for a single parent that is straight. So that to me doesn't make sense, never will make sense. And hopefully the laws will change to say discrimination in that segment also needs to be included in the non-discrimination laws that we have all over the United States. But the older kids, as you mentioned, those are the ones that often are left behind because everybody wants an infant or a toddler or a child that's, under 5 years old. And there's
Right.
a lot of misnomers and misinformation out there about what happens when you adopt a child that is 14, 15, 16, or pretty close to aging out. Aging out in itself is not the solution either, because there's
No, that's not.
still
No,
right, there's still love and feeling of inclusion, and there's that age between 18 and 25 where all sorts of craziness happens that you need family support for. Go ahead, you were going to say.
so yeah, so a couple of things. Number one is from I don't. There's no official number, but what I've heard is like only 1 in 4 agencies will want to work with an LGBTQ plus family. And so one of the things that's really important is folks don't understand you can't just call up the agency that's local to you and say, I want to work with you. If they're religious based, they can absolutely say, we don't want to work with you. If they're not, then they can't do that, but they'll just leave you lingering in the system. And when we started GWK Academy, I spoke with 2 different couples. One wanted to foster adopt, one wanted to adopt. They didn't realize they had to do their research. They just worked, they were living in red states. They worked with agencies local to them. The agencies couldn't deny them, but they also didn't want to work with them. And so I have to share, there are over 400,000 kids in the foster care system. I told you there were 25% of them that been freed up for adoption. So that means there's 100, the number changes. It was 125. I think it's close to 100,000 kids now who are freed up for adoption. 100,000 kids looking for a forever family of their own. And yet, as you were mentioning, these agencies would rather keep those kids in the system instead of placing them with loving LGBTQ plus families. It's just beyond despicable and awful. And I think all those people should just be arrested, quite frankly, because they don't deserve to do the work they're doing. That they would let a kid linger in the system and even age out of the system instead of placing them into a loving home is just kills me.
Well, they become a file number, right? They become less than when you're it's really easy for the human capacity to reduce someone to an inanimate object, if you will, because you have to deal with them on a day-to-day basis in order to kind of silo your emotions, if you will. But then that turns into being able to do these kind of things where, subject 5, I'm going to keep in the system because I don't
Yeah.
believe in LGBT. Well, can you step outside of yourself and say, well, whether this is for you or not, is it for the kid? Like, who are you doing this for? Completely understand. And the mental toll, the type of individual that we are allowing to kind of tumble in the wind in society is unfortunate because we could have done something.
Yes.
And
And
that's
so
where,
I'm hoping that I can help make a little bit of a difference. In fact, we're looking at content now. So You Gotta Believe only works with older kids, hard to place kids. And we just did a series of videos from them on adopting an older kid from the system. And I'm working with Isaac Etter, who does identity change, who was a Black kid adopted by white parents. And he does a lot about transracial adoptions. So we're going to have a whole group of content for preparing people to adopt transracially.
oh,
So
that
I'm
would be an awesome person to talk to because that perspective from the inside looking out, that's what we don't hear a lot of. Much like the storytelling that you were referencing, it's good to have that storytelling on video and sharing with people. But then what do you do after that, right? How do you go past that? And I think that's what you're trying to cover with this new
yeah,
initiative that you're.
exactly. I want people to come up and see, oh, maybe, maybe all the stuff I've heard about foster care is just not true. And but I really, whatever path to parenthood someone wants to pursue, I'm behind it. I just want to make sure people are educated on all their options so they understand all the options before they get started, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about that.
And I support that as well. I've talked to so many people going through surrogacy, and their reasons and decisions for that are absolutely valid. Those going straight to adoption, absolutely valid as well. I know going through our journey, we looked at just adoption as well. We looked at surrogacy, and fostering was the most appealing to us for a litany of reasons, but the cost associated to it was the attraction, right? Because when you
Yeah.
compare that to the others,
Oh, it's
it's
ridiculous. Yeah.
I mean it's night and day, right? And being able to connect with someone that's already in the system is an amazing opportunity. Now, granted, you don't really know what you're going to get. So it's really a mental preparation to say, are you ready for this journey?
Right.
There's a little bit more certainty in what you could potentially get when you go the adoption surrogacy route. Obviously, kids turn into their own personalities and their own
Right.
vibrant, right. So I'm more talking about the trauma that comes with
Right.
with the fostering system that goes from 1 to 10, depending on situational awareness. And you can determine what kind of bathwater you want to get into, right? You want something that's really kind of subtle, or are you ready to take on the kids that have medical challenge? And my heart goes out to the foster parents that do that say, yeah, this is my niche. Send me all of those amazing kids, because
Crazy.
that is, yeah, I mean, that you have to really have a giant heart for
We
that.
met. So our first spring break was in Orlando, and it was right after Don't Say Gay. And so I felt a little guilty for going to Florida, number one. And number two is also wanted to see if we could help community there. So we invited a bunch of dads whom we knew to join us for dinner one night with their kids. And this one couple, if they were in their 30s, they were old. They had one of the guys found this kid in the hospital, and I don't even remember all the stuff that was wrong with him, but he will never feed himself. He will never be able to care for himself. He's 24/7 care. And these young guys, like these strapping big muscle, like hot guys, decided that was going to be their lives. And they had adopted him, and they brought him to dinner. And one of my daughters has autism, and she still to this day talks about it, like when's she going to get to see him again? But I mean, here was this couple who, if you just saw them, you would never, ever, ever expect that they would have. So you just don't know what you're capable of. You don't know what your friends are capable of. And again, that's why I just want to make sure people understand. So next group of content is taking kids with disabilities or special needs, whether it's medical, whether it's other stuff. And then what we found is that once someone has successfully taken on a kid with special needs, a blind child, for example, well, guess what? They're going to be most likely to take on another kid with that same special needs. I was in Colombia with Spence Chapin, one of the oldest adoption agencies in the country, and they do programs internationally. And Colombia and South Africa are two countries that embrace gays and lesbians to adopt. And I met this boy who I would have loved to adopt it myself, but we're too old, and trying to help find he's got mild cerebral palsy, which is what we thought our daughter had for the first few years of her life. So like I wasn't scared of taking that on. And if we were only a little younger, if this was like 5 years ago, he would now be living with us. So that's the other thing, is trying to identify folks who would be able to help out these other kids who really need support today.
Yeah, because you guys are building such a giant community. Just being able to reach out and touch and educate is one part of that. Obviously, fostering is another part. Surrogacy is something that I talk about a lot. I am learning a lot because there's a lot that I thought I knew. There's a lot that I assumed that I knew. And talking to these couples, there's some in the UK, the Netherlands, Canada, that I've had an opportunity to really connect with on this topic, and it's mind blowing how different the process is in Canada versus the United States. But having gone through it yourself, what do you normally tell people that are like, "Hey, is this right for me? I'm curious."
A couple things. Number one is we talk about the costs, um, and the rationale. So most people who, not anyone I know who's doing a surrogate journey, they're doing it because they want to have a biological connection to their child. And that's the reason to have a surrogacy journey. We did a surrogacy journey because we were matched with a baby who was already born, who was like 5 months old, 4 months old at the time, and we thought we were going to adopt this baby. And it process went on for about 3 months. We spent $10,000 in legal fees and social worker and transportation, et cetera. And that didn't end up happening. The birth mom decided she didn't want to give her child up for adoption. Was it a bummer for us? Yes. But was that absolutely her right to make that decision? Of course it was. So we said, well, we're going to have to look into other ways of becoming dads. So we looked into surrogacy. And then right after we signed a contract with a surrogacy agency, we found out we got a call from our adoption agency about Levi, which is why we did both so close together. I don't know anyone else that's done that. So yeah, people that want to have a biological connection, and we talk, it's, I tell people you're going to spend somewhere between 100, really, I say 150,000, and I don't even think that's feasible or viable at this point. I think it's more like 175 to 300,000. You don't have to spend it all. It's not like you have to have all the money up front at once. Most people don't, right? They'll spend the first 50 or so to create embryos, and then those embryos can stay frozen for as long as you need until you raise money to pay for the rest of the journey. But I think other people choose surrogacy also because they feel like there's a little bit more control than with adoption. And I think people who haven't done the right research, see, what we do at GWK Academy, which I should have explained earlier, is first thing we have is making sure you understand your options. And then once you've chosen the path that's best for you, we have courses that we're creating, mostly videos of, anywhere from 14 to 15 lessons. And I tell people you can binge through one of our courses the way I binged through the last season of You on Netflix. But at least you know what you need to know, how long it's going to take, how much it's going to cost, how you can afford to pay for it. With the major players, you're going to have to work with organizations, professionals, et cetera, and some of the nuances involved on that particular path. Because I want them to be educated before they start, so that, I don't want anyone else to ever say we didn't feel confident about any decision we were making. And I think that just being educated is a way to help avoid that. And also, I can't tell how many people I've talked to who are like down a Google rabbit hole at 3 a.m. on something that they didn't even need to worry about, but they didn't know it. So getting back to what you were saying earlier, you can Google today and get five results or a bunch of results versus like when I was going through this where there were no results. You're right, but the issue that I have is not every result is equal, right? They're not all as good. So I hope that we become known as the very first stop on any LGBTQ plus person's path to parenthood, because we're current, we know about the laws, we know about the latest and greatest ways to do things, and we've got not only these courses, but we have free, everything we do is for free. You don't have to pay anything to do it, because I believe that we should all be educated before we start our journey, and we should all have this access to the same resources. We also do coaching calls. So I coach people who want to know about a surrogacy and IVF journey or adoption or foster adopt. But I have a queer midwife who does coaching calls for women. And then I have a trans dad does coaching calls on trans fertility pathways. In addition to that, we have mentors. So we match people who've gone through a similar journey, but much more recently than I did. And then increasingly important, and we talked about this already, vetted family building partners. I tell anyone going through adoption or foster care, they must go to an agency. Like let me either tell them the names of a couple of agencies or give me the names of your and let me do some homework on them, because it's so important that you're working with organizations that don't just work with the LGBTQ community, but are passionate about LGBTQ plus family building. Typically, you can tell if they're passionate just by going to their websites or social media channels, and they better have families that look like the one you're about to create, that you hope to create.
Exactly.
Otherwise, I would run, not walk. I would run far away from them.
And for me, my husband is white, so for me, it was really trying to find the dynamic that said you're looking to build a family that is part of the LGBTQ community, but also accepting of a multiracial type of setup. There's an additional layer of consideration that we typically have. So we were fortunate enough to find this one agency, because here in Arizona they give you a sheet that has 10 agencies on there. So right off the bat, you think you're limited to these 10. And, they say, please call and find out which one is best for you without really telling you why you're doing that. Like, let's just go with the first one. Like, why do I need to call all 10 of these? But you quickly find out, just how they're named, that you really need to find the right one. So after looking at that, their website, much like you said, their website had LGBTQ team members that currently were working there. So right off the bat, okay, family, hey, something I recognize. So I think that is important as well. While their main focus wasn't to specifically support LGBTQ families, it's part of their DNA. Right. And I think that is important to be able to not just say that, but to see that in the employees that work there, the people that are supporting you, who you're talking to. Just someone that feels, like you said before, that knows your community, why you would ask such a question about this from an LGBTQ perspective and get an answer, as opposed to someone going, oh, I don't know why you would ask that, and never really giving you the answer you're seeking. So,
right.
So I think that's fantastic. So surrogacy, the journey in itself, you're able to connect individuals with agencies, because I know in speaking to a lot of folks, they're like, hey, the journey is to find an agency that supports, it's available. Surrogates aren't always as available as people may think. It's not a sign up and we're on the road process. Oftentimes it's years to get to where you're trying to get to. I mean, there's medical stuff involved as well. Where does your organization stop when it comes to?
So that's a good question. So in terms of doesn't matter which journey, we don't stop. We're happy to. There are some people who reach out to me before they make any decisions, like any major decisions, and I'm happy to be a part of that. Other people, I have one coaching call with them. I suggest here's how I would go if it were me, and I don't hear from them again. Other people, we check in every few months, so it really differs. I am happy to get as involved as you want. Like, I can't imagine, like, my day, the days that I'm really busy and I have like 3 or 4 coaching calls with people are my favorite days. I just talking to people and it's helping them out. Like, so we get as involved as you want. We have our own, what I call an exclusive, when it comes to surrogacy and IVF, network of family building partners. So when I was going through a journey, especially because I'm HIV positive, and by the way, my husband tried as well, but his little guys didn't swim the way mine did, and so it didn't work. He would have had to have some kind of medical procedure, and it would have delayed us an extra 6 months, and so we decided not to do that. But we work with a handful, because I think today people are overwhelmed. There are hundreds and hundreds of agencies. There are hundreds and hundreds of clinics, but they're not all equal. They truly are not. So you want to have, and agencies will quote anywhere from being matched with a surrogate. I just was looking at a website yesterday. It said 2 to 3 months to about a year. But I happen to know of several agencies, some of the larger ones, that you can be waiting 2 years to be matched with a surrogate. And so you really have to do your due diligence. So we work with a handful of agencies to give people enough options, a handful of egg donation agencies, and then clinics. I'm trying to get have at least because most people prefer, if possible, to work with a clinic that's within an easy drive, because They have to go visit it once at least for their semen specimen, and then their egg donor has to go there, their surrogate has to go there. So it's just easier if they live closest. And so I'm trying to get like strategically have relationships with clinics that are spread throughout. I'm not there yet, but we've got, I don't know, 6 to 8 clinics, 5 or 6 agencies, et cetera. And I tell people, like, you don't have to work with one of our family building partners. There are many others out there. I know it can be overwhelming to find some. So if you want to start with ours, that's what I would recommend. If you have friends that worked with someone, go ahead and talk to them as well. Just remember, just because your friend had a great experience doesn't mean you're going to have a great experience. So you really have to do your own due diligence. So yeah, we can connect people with family building partners as well, and that's a big part of what we do. I used to, before we were not for profit, I got referral fees from these family building partners, but since we're not for profit, I just didn't want to have any potential look of impropriety. So we just said, I don't want any referral fees. I just want to know that I'm working with organizations that I can trust will take care of our folks. They know what they're doing. They're experts, not only within surrogacy and IVF, but within what's called third-party reproduction as well. And they're just going to do right by our folks. And you know what? They're businesses at the end of the day, and not every customer of every business is always happy. So I also say, if there's an issue, I tell people, come to me, let me know, and I'm happy to reach out to, usually it's the owner of the organization, the head doctor, or whatever it is, who I know, to see what I can do to help make you happy. And so that's my spiel. And most of our clinics and agencies also give some kind of a discount to folks if they come through GWK Academy.
Well, yeah, a discount on $350,000 is most welcome.
Yeah, I know.
Do you have a national reach, or does it go beyond national? Are you global in certain areas? I say global, I don't mean like in every country, but
We are global in terms of anyone that wants to come to the United States on a surrogacy and IVF journey, we can help and we can support. We're national, absolutely. We're national for anyone who wants to create their family, whether it's biological, adoption, or foster adopt, or adopting from the foster care system, I should say. We're national.
So how do you feel the laws are going these days? I don't know anything about the adoption surrogacy laws. It's been a while since I've fostered, so I'm not plugged in there. But are we, generally speaking, are we standing in a good spot? Are we moving in a positive direction, or is it looking very dim?
No, well, when you allow people to make exemptions from who they're going to work with simply because of your so-called religious belief, that's not a good thing, right? And there are a whole bunch of states that do that. And there are a few states that actually have laws in their books to support LGBTQ plus family building, but there are many more states that don't. And I don't like what I see happening, whether it's the Trump administration or red states that are, trying to make our families invisible again and to make us invisible again. And so that is very frightening because it reminds me of my childhood and how screwed up I was because of all that. So, but that's why I think it's really visibility, I always say, is an extremely important thing. And that's why Gays with Kids, one of the things, and on GWK Academy still, that we try to do is just give visibility, give accurate, honest, which are always turns out to be positive portrayals of our families. I do think that at the end of the day, when non-LGBTQ plus families meet us, when they meet us, then they realize, oh, they are no different than us. They care about getting their kids to school on time. Are they eating right? Are they doing their homework? Do they have friends? Are they doing well with their sports or after school activities? Like all the same exact concerns. And when they meet us and see us, I think a little light goes on and then they care less. They start thinking less about what goes on in our bedroom, which is crazy, anyways. Because I met a ton of we hang out with all straight people, and I love them, love them, love them. But like every one of us has does something in the bedroom that we don't want anyone else to know about. I don't care who you are.
That's why the laws exist. It's the straight couples who come because they know. Anyway, that's a whole different.
Yeah, I know. I just so yeah, I don't like I don't like that it's becoming easier to discriminate or to make us invisible. That scares me.
So let me ask you this on the personal side, how would you describe yourself as a dad with your family? You have three kids, a husband. Do you have a dog?
We have two dogs.
Two dogs. Okay, so the American equation, the kids, the husband, and the dog, and the picket fence. I'm assuming. How awesome is that dad experience for you these days?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, we have twin girls who are 14. So
Well, that was unexpected, right? There's no way you could have seen that coming, right?
no, well, when we were doing our surrogacy journey, back in those days, most people implanted two embryos. Some implanted even more because the thinking was the more embryos you implanted, the more likelihood you were to have one baby. The odds obviously increased for twins, but not the same level that they increased for just being successful. Today, we know that carrying multiples is women were not meant to carry multiples, and so the American Society for Reproductive Medicine, most clinics, they will not implant more than one embryo. Instead, and the technology's gotten so great that you know how viable these embryos are, you know how great they are, so you typically only implant one. So for us, having twins is not a total shocker. So we're in the midst of the puberty thing, which started around 13 or 12. And what does that mean? That means that 1 minute we can have the most loving, sweet, cuddly girl. The next moment, she's a complete witch. Like it's really, really challenging. But yeah, I mean, I'm I'm loving fatherhood and parenthood. My husband's right. Like I can't, I'm not saying if, you have to become a parent, but like for us, knowing that I'm living way past and my lives would have felt empty if what happened, we got a dog like 20 years ago, and all of a sudden we were saying no to dinner invitations, or we were leaving parties early, or we were leaving parties before they became parties, because we want to go and walk our dog and like take care of him. We got on brunches, and so my husband's like, "Come on, if we're doing this for a dog, like, maybe we should get a little human into our lives." And so that's why eventually we became dads. But Duke, our firstborn, may he rest in peace, is how we knew we wanted to become dads.
So that's for the twin girls. Levi is a little bit older.
Yeah, he's 16. He's got his driver's license, and he's learning, or excuse me, he's learning to drive and learning to fly a plane at the same time.
Oh, look at that. Well,
Yeah.
one of them has got to be successful somewhere.
Hopefully both. Yeah.
That's awesome. I know my husband likes to fly planes as well.
Oh,
He hasn't done so in quite a while, but he did the classes and the licensing. He actually took me up in what I want to say is a Cessna, a single engine. Yeah, and it was the worst experience.
I went up with Levi once and his instructor, and I didn't love it. My husband is
Yeah.
more comfortable with it than I am. That thing is so small and so loud. Like you really wonder how it's keeping you up in the air the whole time you're up there, right? Like,
So for me the plane was fine because it was him and his instructor. So there was a layer of safety woven in. Although while you're up there, that's negligible, right? You don't really
right.
see or feel that. But it's a four-seater. The back seat is slim, so it's really a three-seater. I'm in the back seat, and today is maneuvers days. So they're doing all sorts of banking and turns, stalls and it is the worst roller coaster I've ever been on. I would never do that again.
Yeah, Levi did the stalls thing also, and that just freaks the way he was describing it freaked me out. So, but yeah, he's had this passion. If he's not up in the air flying a plane, he's doing it virtually, or he's at an airport taking videos and photos of planes coming and going. Like this is his thing.
That's awesome. I mean, that from what I hear, the journey is often amazing, and how far you can go is limitless as long as you get the hours. And
Correct.
sounds like he's definitely on his way. That's awesome. I often ask those questions because, again, being part of a community is important, and these are the kind of conversations that I'm hoping to have with others as we continue to grow and build something here local in Phoenix. Just how are you doing it? What are your challenges? Are you going through the same thing? I have teenagers. My kid's 12 years old. He's got the attitude as well. And I'm often wondering, was I that way at his age? Like, I don't remember
I wasn't. We
half the
weren't, but
things.
we're gay. Remember, we're gay, so we probably weren't as bad. Like I was a mama's boy, no doubt about it. I'm not only gay, but I'm Jewish too, so I was definitely a mama's boy. So no, we were not. And I wouldn't have talked to my dad the way my kids sometimes talk to me, but my dad wouldn't have let me get away with it either. By the way, there's a Spence Chapin happens to have an office. So they serve New York and New Jersey, but recently they're licensed in Phoenix as well. And
I've actually had a chance to speak to them a few weeks back because they're I think what they're doing is great. They're trying to move into areas where the community could use some additional
right.
support. So yeah, they're moving out here in Phoenix too. But go ahead, you were going to say.
Oh, I was just saying I could connect you with them. They might also be able to connect you with local dads.
Oh yeah, I'm open to everything. I do have that connection. I haven't talked to. I think it was last month that I spoke to them, but it was real brief, and it wasn't tied to the podcast. It was just really about trying to feel out the region, if you will, understand what resources are available. My foster journey kind of led some insights into what was available resource wise and support wise. So,
How long ago did you become a dad?
oh God, it's been 8.5 years.
Oh, okay. So we actually, I hope with Spence Chapin to come to Phoenix next year to put on so we're thinking of doing some IRL events in cities, not LA, not New York City, not like San Fran, but like other cities under that where there's sizable LGBTQ plus communities called Find Your Path to, so GWK Academy, Find Your Path to Parenthood, where we talk about what your options are, biological, adoption, foster care. And so like in Phoenix, we would partner with Spence Chapin and then find also a foster care agency, and then have parents who travel each journey to talk really quickly. So we give a high level overview of the options, meet families created, and then go off and do one-on-one networking and talking and stuff. So hopefully we'll be in Phoenix in Q1 at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll keep an eye on it. I have you guys' website bookmarked. You guys have a lot of resources. I think I spent a lot of time on there and still haven't really cracked the egg, if you will. But yeah, I love, if you need some support, some help, some storytelling, feel free to tap me on the shoulder. I am down to help. I think representation is important. I think it's important to at least see people being engaged on these topics. It's helpful. It just harkens me back to when I was looking for stuff, and it's night and day just in 8 years. So that's fantastic. Yeah. All right. So last note, what would you say to someone who is, what's the word I want to use, looking for a connection? I know that's very ambiguous.
If you're considering parenthood, if you're thinking about it, don't wait for the perfect time, because there is no such thing as the perfect time. Just start doing it. And plus, with us, it doesn't happen overnight. You're not going to go out and have a celebratory dinner with your partner and then the next day you find out you're pregnant. So it's going to take a while. So come to GWK Academy, find what your options are now, get educated on your options, and then figure out which path is best for you and start making progress as you want. But, if you're thinking about it, it can't happen. Every single person I've known, I've been doing this a long time now, anyone I know who said they want to become a parent does. It might not happen as linearly as you expect. It might cost you more money, but I promise you, if you keep your eyes on the prize, that everyone who wants to become a parent can and will become a parent.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. This was fantastic. If you ever decide to get into the banking industry, because the loans for some of these things.
I know. I actually have a conversation next week with someone to help out about that, because I know it's ridiculous.
All right, Brian, I appreciate it. I'll let you go. Get back to your day. This has been fantastic. I love what your organization is doing, and social media has been very impactful in at least me coming to know your organization the way that I do now. And obviously, it's just the tip of the iceberg, but this has been fantastic.
Well, thank you very much. I wish you well.
You can never find somebody